All right, 6:31 and you're live.
All right, thank you. This is the meeting of the City of Oneonta Planning Committee, March 2nd at 6:30. We'll do a quick roll. Councilmember Davies,
Here.
Councilmember Drenick,
Here.
Councilmember Carson,
Here.
and Councilmember Risberger. I'm here, and we also have Mayor Herzig here as well. We only have one item on the agenda this evening, and that is the establishing of a housing board. Did everybody get a chance to peruse the second draft that was sent out? Okay. I can share my screen really quick here. Everybody see it? Okay. So I don't think you necessarily need me to read through this out loud, but did anybody have any questions here about what was proposed? When Mark was kind enough to write this up for us, and then I took what he put and basically placed it in with what we already had in the charter for most of our boards and commissions. And then Dave tweaked it from there, Dave Merzig. So it looked good to me, unless anybody had something that they felt needed to be tweaked a little bit more. No? Okay. So let's do a quick vote, just to be, well, how about this? How about we do a vote of everybody yay or nay?
Dave, does
Or a
it say
thumbs
the
up.
number? Does it
What?
specify the number of commissioners?
It
Or
does.
is that left open? Okay.
I put in as 5, but if somebody felt like it needed to be more than that, I wouldn't go less than 5, but I know we have some boards that are 7. Does anybody feel like that needs to change at all? I just put 5 just to put a number in, so I'm okay if somebody really feels strongly they think it's more. I just thought that it's not necessarily an easy thing to get people to sit on boards and commissions, and we have potentially an additional board that is being developed as well. So I didn't know if we wanted to keep it at 5 or if you really felt strongly we could go more. Any thoughts? Go ahead, Mark.
So Dave, I think I would advocate for 7, actually. This is a hot topic. This particular commission is likely to be something that a lot of people will want to see if they can get a seat at the table on.
Okay, any other thoughts?
I would maybe say a minimum of 5, give you a maximum of 7, give you the flexibility.
Mhm.
Yeah, that would be a good way of going around that. Yeah.
Well, if I do that, let's see, I think I can adjust that right here. But if I do that, then that's going to make another change be needed down here. So let me write this in of a minimum of, I can type, and a maximum of 7. City of Oneonta residents. During the initial establishment of the commission, the appointments for the commissioners shall be, well, actually, I don't know that I would agree with leaving it open like that, Gary. I think we need to do one or the other. And if we really feel like it should be 7, I'm okay with going 7. We could always revisit it and lower it if we need to. But if we
Well,
leave it open like this, it's.
Yeah, you may be right. I'm second thinking that, because the whole issue with a majority is based upon the number
Yeah.
of on the full number. So appointing 5, if you could have 7, could be a problem.
Well, we could appoint 7, and if we go ahead, Len.
Yeah, because if you ended up with 6, then you wouldn't have the odd out.
Well, the other problem is if you say it's 7 and you only appoint 5, then you need 4 to be a majority. So you really need 80% to be a majority in that case. So probably should pick one or the other, just 5 or 7. I can go with either one, whatever people
Okay.
feel.
Well, Mark is hoping for 7. Any other thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm of two minds. I would lean 7, though. Here's why I'm of two minds. One, I do agree with your opening statement. It is difficult to get people to onto boards and commissions. However, I think that the point of 5 certainly gives you a quorum. It's easier to have a quorum and have a majority of those people be able to vote on issues with 7. I would be concerned about 5 people if you have 2 people show up and you don't have a quorum, and so it's a challenge. So I would certainly support 7 as well.
Okay. Len, thoughts?
No, that's a good way of looking at it. No,
Sorry. Of course, it still rings on my computer. Sorry, guys. Okay, so if I'm hearing
yeah, I
everybody
think- I
correctly,
think 7 is fine, but to address and recognize the fact that it is difficult to get people to volunteer time. Dave, that was the one question that I had for this draft version was the time, the meetings. Is that the way the language is for the other commissions?
as far as, what do you mean the time? The
The-
time,
It doesn't
For,
actually say that they have to meet every month.
that's in a different part of the charter. I don't know that it necessarily says how many times a month they meet, but there is a time restriction, I believe. They can't meet at, I don't believe they can meet at 9 a.m. I think it's got to be after 4.
Okay.
So if am I reading it, everybody correctly, that you'd rather have 7 than 5?
I would,
So let me make one more argument. Well, let me make an argument for 5. And again, I see both sides of this. So just throw this at you really quickly, see to get some thinking while we're thinking this through all the way. I think Mark is on the money. I think it'd be better to have more people. However, if we were worried about getting people onto this group, you have 5, and if there were extra people, there's always an opportunity to have subcommittees that are comprised of board members and then
Yeah.
also citizens who would help out doing research, whatever it might be. So that would be a way to be able to involve other people. Although again, it still to me leaves some of the issues of 3 is a quorum. Majority, then if majority is 4. No, majority
Yeah.
would be 3, but still.
You're talking 3 or 4 for a majority. It's not a big deal. And actually, when we think about it, the very first housing group that we formed had over 80 people show up. So there's definitely interest.
Right. Right.
I mean, I would lean towards 7 after listening to Mark Davies, myself. And then if it turns out we can't, the mayors down the road can't fill that, I mean, you could always bring it back to the council and reduce the number. I mean, that's always the choice.
so Dave, so as it breaks out, 2 for 3 years, 2 for 2 years, 1 for 1 year, what I would do would be to increase, I'd leave the 3 years alone, the 2 years alone, and I would increase the 1 year to 3 at 1 year so that somebody who didn't feel like they could make that kind of a length of a commitment might be able to be convinced to give it that 1 year.
Sure. I'm okay with that. Any other thoughts on that?
That works for me.
So Gary, when we have commissions and boards that don't meet the maximum, when you're going through that process of trying to get people to volunteer, it doesn't stop the board or the commission from meeting. So maybe to Mark Davies' point, we could put down 7, but the board will still, the housing commission will still be meeting. There's nothing that stops them as long as they have a quorum.
Yeah, the quorum would be 4.
Right.
As long as they have 4. I mean, it's not unusual for one of our boards or commissions or more not to be fully appointed.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of as everybody was talking. I was thinking, well, in the past, we've had that before where the committees or the boards aren't at full capacity.
Gary, is there any, trying to do some rapid math here. I'm just wondering if we would run into any issues having 3 that would have to be appointed in 1 year at some point down the road. I don't think that would run into any issues. Right.
The only issue is that it's a lot of vacancies in 1 year.
Yeah. Well, either way, you could
If you-
spread
if
it
you
out
s-
from there, but either way, you're going to have end up having one that's 3 years. So,
Yeah, exactly.
okay.
Well, actually, if you do it any other way, it seems as good a way as any.
Okay. All right. So I have here, the term is for 3 years total, 7 people. And we have, we would be appointing 2 people for a 3-year term, 2 for 2-year term, and 3 for a 1-year term. Any objections to that? Okay. Any other questions? Changes?
Dave,
Yeah.
could you scroll down near what their responsibilities were again?
Oops. The purpose?
Nope, the responsibilities. It's near the end of the document.
Ah, okay.
There it goes.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, thank you.
Dave, could you go to those numbers once more about the number of people in each term? I just want to take another look
Sure.
at that. So we have
So-
2 for 3, 2 for 2, and 3 for 1. Yeah, I guess makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, to Mark's point on that, it might be an easy way to kind of get people in and kind of hook them into what this is all about. 1-year commitment is an easy commitment to make, and then they get in and they realize that maybe they like this and they enjoy it, and this is important work, and they could then have another term. But it might be easier to fill that initially.
Yeah, I agree.
And then how many terms are they allowed to have? Is it based on terms or years?
Years. Whoa,
It's terms.
terms, 3 terms.
Yeah.
3 full terms. So
Yeah.
if you start off with a 2 or a 1 year, you actually get more time
That's right.
because your first term doesn't count if it's not a full term.
Doesn't count?
Yeah, it has to be 3 full terms. You can't serve more than 3 full terms. So if your first term is 2 years, that term doesn't, you still get to have 3 additional full terms after that.
Right, but I was just thinking of what Mark Davies just said. So if you had somebody that was interested, they came in on a 1-year term, but yet
Mhm.
the 2 individuals for the 3-year and 2 years stayed, you potentially could have people that would term out before they're allowed to get into the 2-year term or the 3-year term.
No, because if somebody comes in for a 1-year term, they would then is reappointed, they'd be reappointed for a 3-year term. After this initial, everybody would get a 3-year term.
Oh,
The
that's
people
right.
that have the 2-year term actually have the biggest advantage and the most time that they could spend on this if they really wanted to, because they could have 3 full terms plus 2 years.
Right, okay.
It's just staggering the initial appointments in the unusual case where everybody stayed. You don't want all 7 people's term expiring at the same time.
Correct.
Can you imagine?
If all 7 stayed and termed out?
That would be a rough year.
Although it's interesting that council doesn't have this staggered approach.
Yeah, that's a whole other discussion. That was debated for quite some time with the Charter Commission and then with the first council and I think with the second council. It has to do with the other elections that take place in the off years and how you'd have some councilmen and councilwomen at advantage and others would be at a severe disadvantage with the number of voters that would be out. So
Mm.
I know some cities do it anyway. We at the time we decided not to, and you know, it could always be changed.
On a related subject, remember when we spoke a month or so ago, I told you that the city had passed a number of years ago when Dick Miller was mayor, a number of exemptions for housing, tax exemptions for housing.
Yeah.
I asked Rich Maxwell to look them up for me. He is sending me copies of them along with a list of any exemptions that were issued and to who they were issued, under what circumstances. Unfortunately, all of them have expired. They were all for a limited amount of time and we never renewed them.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
So, but I will send that to everybody on the committee. I should have them in the next day or two for you to take a look at.
All right. Thanks, Gary. Okay, so does anybody have any objection to passing this on to the legislative committee? I'm going to get that on their agenda. The thought is that it will be discussed there, and if everybody agrees to it, they'll pass it. That evening, I will immediately send it back out to the entire council so it's laid, and that way it can be on the agenda for the, was it March 16th council meeting? So, any objection to passing it on as is?
So legislative will meet the 8th.
Yes. Hold on. Yes, we meet next Monday. And if I
So
get
if they
that laid
pass
that
it-
night, then it'll be in time for the following council meeting.
Right.
Okay. All right. Does anybody have anything else they want to bring up? All right.
Okay,
Sounds
good work.
good.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks everybody for all your hard work on this. I think this is really exciting and very much needed. So